Hi everybody, welcome to the Edge to Board. I am Neil Edge, THoiA on Board Game Geek, and today I'm going to be giving you a tutorial on Himalaya the board game by Régis Bonnessée. This game was originally designed back in 2002 and released as a web-published print-and-play game called Merchants of the Empire. It did pretty well for itself and found a publisher in Tilsit who released this version in 2004, which is when I got my copy. This copy has seen quite a few hours of play on the table, as it is really quite a fun game. Some interesting mechanics in it. It's a pick up and deliver game, but you manage that through programming of your actions. It also has a touch of area majority in it, and a couple of surprises in the scoring system. So let's go ahead and take a look at how the game is played. Okay, so welcome to Himalaya. This is, as I said, my well-used copy of the game. You can see in the crease of the board it's losing some color from wear because it's been played so many times. Had a lot of good times with this game. This is currently out of print, but there is a reprint that was scheduled for the end of 2013. That has been moved back to January to June of 2014, so it will eventually be available on the market again. The game is set up as a 4-player game, even though the box states that it is a 2 to 4 player game. I feel it really is a 4-player or more game. I say more because they did release an expansion to give you the extra pieces to play 5 and 6 players. But the game really shines at 4, and that'll become clear at the end when I'm talking about the victory conditions. This game is set in the Himalayas, and we are traveling with our yak from village to village, trying to pick up these cubes that represent different resources and deliver them to the other villages that need to receive those resources to better position ourselves with our tribe for success in these mountains. We are also going to be along the way establishing religious and military dominance in the regions on the board. Speaking of the board, the breakdown of the board is these villages that are numbered from 1 to 20. Each village has a number of paths leading off from it. The paths are either blue icy paths, brown dirt paths, or these dark rocky paths that we will be traveling upon. The players are going to all be provided with a player screen. Now, this is probably one of the most functional player screens in a game, because while you're keeping your resources hidden, you've got this little tray at the bottom that you can put your resources on, because you will actually be moving your screen and you still want your resources to be hidden. Now, this particular copy, when it came, did not have these little slits in the side. I actually had to add that so they would stay closed. Otherwise, you had to sit there and hold the screen all game long, which was a little bit annoying. So a little X-Acto knife took care of that for me. Players are also given these 6 action tiles. They will use these to designate what direction they want to follow on the paths. They're given 3 special tiles. These special tiles are actually an advanced rule that I have never not played with. Even when I have brand new players or non-gamers playing the game, I introduce these because they're such a simple little addition to the game. You then receive 5 stupas that you'll be able to put out in the villages upon completing deliveries, and 15 emissaries that you can place on the board in the various regions. The regions are these areas blocked off by the paths. So this right here would be a region, this right here would be considered a region, and so on. Once the game is set up, which consists of rolling a d20 and finding the appropriate village and placing 5 cubes out of the cube bag randomly into that village. You do this 5 times. You'll then continue to roll the d20 and place out order rings into those 5 villages. Once that is completed, every player can take their yak guy and place him in an empty village. As long as there's no cubes, rings, or another player there, it's an open village to place your starting position. Obviously, strategically, you want to place yourself next to a village that's got cubes so you can pick up the cubes so that you can then deliver the cubes. Now, the pickup and delivery is handled with these action tiles. Each tile has 4 sides as it is square in nature. The 4 sides represent the 3 different types of paths: the ice, the dirt, and the rock. But additionally, there's this one that's got these little hands, and that's how we deal with the villages. So simultaneously, each player will program their 6 actions. This is done behind your player screen so nobody knows where each person's going. I'm going to obviously do it in front of you so you can see what's going on here. So if I was playing purple and I wanted to travel from village 4 to village 3, I would take my action tile and I would orient it with the dirt, representing the dirt path, facing away from me, or at the 12 o'clock position. That would mean when I resolve this tile, I'm going to move from here down this path to here. Which then brings us to, as I was talking to, the dealing action. This action with the little hands. Whenever you enter a village that has either goods or an orders ring, you can place the deal with that village action at the 12 o'clock position, and you'll get to interact with that city once per turn. You can never interact with the same city more than once per programming, but there's only 6 steps in each programming and 12 turns in the game, so you'll have plenty of opportunity to work with different villages. Now when you enter a village that has cubes, the generosity of the Himalayan people kicks in. You walk into their village and say, hey, I want some stuff, and they freely give it to you. Now, not to insult them and appear greedy, what you will then do is take the least valuable cube available. And the cubes are valued from left to right in your player screen. The salt is the least valuable, so if you are in this village, you would take a salt cube. If you were, let's say it was like this, you could then take the barley cube, and so on and so forth. Once you've dealt with that city, you would then choose to move on. I would probably, in this instance, want to move down to the rock village, so I'd play the rock and hopefully go down there and grab another cube. And at that point, just kind of probably start positioning myself for my next turn, possibly even staying here, because on the other side of the token is your rest action. You can choose to just simply rest and not do anything. So with a program like this, which is not a real effective program, I guess I'd actually need to be like that, I would say that I'm going to move down the dirt path, collect a cube, move down the rock path, collect a cube, and then I'm going to rest twice. Because I can sit here in this village, and on my next turn, my first action could be to deal with the city and take another cube from them. They're okay with that because it's a whole new turn. As I said, these 6 actions are all going to be programmed behind your screen. Everybody's going to be doing this simultaneously. You're going to reveal your actions. Then starting with the start player, moving in clockwise order, each person will resolve action number 1 all the way around the board. Then each player resolves action 2 until everybody has resolved all 6 of their actions, collected their resources from the board, fulfilled orders on the board. Speaking of fulfilling orders, these order rings have 2 colors, 1, 2, or 3 colors on them. This particular one has 2. This represents a white cube and a black cube. If you stroll yourself right into that village and you have the appropriate cubes and you programmed yourself to be dealing with the village in that point, you can then interact with this city, give up the cubes, put them back in the bag, and you will have then 3 options available to you. Of the 3 options, you get to select 2 of them. The options are, first of all, to keep the ring. And all these rings have a number on them, and that represents the number of yaks you collected. Because ultimately, the winner of the game will be the person with the largest yak herd. This represents economic influence. So one of your actions is to collect the ring. However, if the ring is low, as in the 2s or the 4s, as you see there are 8s out there, you may want to put the ring back in the bag and take the other 2 options. The other 2 options are to place one of your 5 stupas into that village. This is important. Only 1 stupa can be in each village per game. So once I've established a stupa here, no other player will have a stupa in village number 11. The other option is to place emissaries. Now if you'll notice, these villages are visually different. The little villages here are called houses. The medium ones are called monasteries. And I forget what the third one is actually called. But I always refer to it as level 1, 2, and 3. The level 1 villages are literally the smallest little house-looking hut-like ones. The level 2s all have the orange bases with the kind of darker orange roofs. And the level 3 are really just these 5 interior ones, or I guess 6 interior ones, that are connected to the 3 different regions on the outside. Level 2 are connected to 2 regions adjacent to them, and level 1 have only 1 region adjacent to them. That's the biggest way to understand what size the village is. So that brings us to your third option of placing the emissaries. As a level 2 village, I'd be allowed to place 2 emissaries. I could place 2 here, I could place 2 here, or I could place 1 in each region. Doesn't matter, it's your choice. Placing emissaries allows you to place the number. If you fulfill an order ring here, you obviously get to place 3 emissaries in any denomination of the 3 adjacent regions. So those are your 3 choices. Again, you can collect the ring, you can place a stupa, or you can place emissaries out on the board. That's a turn. Everybody's done their actions. We then advance the turn marker. Play keeps continuing until we get to turn 4, 8, and obviously the end of the game, 12. When we get to these, we pause the game, and after the entire round's completed, we will then do an additional economic award. In the base game, you will simply go through the 5 different color cubes, and each player that has the majority in that cube color will receive one of these tiles with a 3 on it. That is 3 yaks to add to your herd. As I said at the end of the game, the ultimate winner is the person with the largest yak herd, so getting these can be kind of important. In the expansion, however, they threw in an interesting rule that the person with the most in each of these colors has the choice of either taking the yaks, placing 2 emissaries into any region on the board, or placing a stupa in any village that does not currently have one. It's an interesting rule that you may wish to try out. I suggest playing with the base game rules at least a time or two to figure out if you dislike the randomness, because I really don't find the randomness too bad in this game. At any rate, you simply run through those 5 different good types, and whoever has the most, they get their reward. If there is a tie, no player gets the reward. That's a very interesting little aspect. And it does make your movements and plannings and turns 3 and 4 interesting, as you may not want to fill orders right away. But if you don't fulfill orders, perhaps somebody's going to slip in there and steal the order from you. You never know. At any point in time at the end of the round, if cubes are eliminated from a village, you will roll the die and put out another random 5 cubes in the new village. So at any time there should always be 5 villages with cubes in them. Now it could be as little as 1 cube. That's okay. We are not going to replace cubes for those 2 villages, even though they only have 1 cube in them, until that last cube is picked up. Play will continue until round 12, at which time we will go over the conditions. At this point in time, however, I'm going to talk about the advanced game rules, which are these tokens. Before programming begins, in clockwise order, starting with the start player, each player may choose to place out one of these tokens, and this is just a little variant in the game that I find quite interesting. The first one is this one right here, which is the snowstorm. So if somebody knew that I had the cubes and was going to head from here down to village 10 and fulfill this big 8-point tile, they may wish to stop me or slow me down enough so that they could get there. Particularly this guy who's actually 2 steps away, and I'm simply 1 step away. If he's wanting me to not be able to get there, he can throw the snowstorm down. What the snowstorm does is it makes this a 2 travel path, meaning that for the first rock path I play, I simply move my marker to this position. In order to continue to here, I have to have a second rock path marker. Now I'm there. If I do not play this second mark rocker, and I went ahead with my programming like such, Dirt, hands, and ice. If I would with this program, I would travel to here, and I would be lost in the storm for every other action in the turn, and I'd spend my entire turn there. At the end of the turn, I would somehow manage to wander my way back to this village where I started, and have effectively wasted my entire turn. If, however, the player wanted to ensure that I was not going to make it to that village, he could always place these snowy footsteps, which represent Legend of Yeti along that path. And that frightens me so much that I just cannot bear to take the path whatsoever. It's completely out of balance for me. I found this token to be a little on the not intimidating side. So I happened to be at a flea market one day, and I found this guy, and I have pimped my game with him. And I feel like that would be the Yeti that would keep me from traveling that path. So there. That's my component addition in the game. The last advanced game marker is this one, and any player can play these into any of the villages with cubes. So I could play this right here at 12. What this allows me to do is, when I visit that village and then deal with that village, I can ignore that rule about taking the least valuable good and choose any good available. So I could take the gold, even though the salt is still sitting there. That's roughly how the game is played. Once the game is completed, however, we will then determine who is the actual winner. Before we can do that, we have to determine who gets eliminated from the game. As I had stated, we're going to be running around putting these stupas out. We're going to run around and put these emissaries out in various places on the board. And we're going to determine some elimination aspect of the game. The stupas are built in the villages, and as I said, we have the level 1, level 2, and level 3 villages. So the first thing you're going to do is count up your political influence based on your stupas. For purple, this is a 2-point stupa, because it's in a level 2 village. This would be a 3-point stupa in the level 3 village. So you count up all your stupa points. Purple would have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. The player with the least value of stupas removes all of their playing pieces from the board, including their emissaries. We'll pretend blue lost and was eliminated. So simply by not having enough political influence, that player has lost the game before we even get to the yak counting point. They then remove all their emissaries from the different regions. That's where the slight area majority bit comes in. The area majority will then be who has the most influence, political influence, based on the number of their emissaries in the various regions. As one player just removes some of his emissaries from the board, that can actually change based on what he pulled off the board. The player who then has the least political influence is also eliminated from the game. We'll pretend that was red. So we've eliminated blue based on his weak position in religion. We've eliminated red based on his weak position in political influence. Now it's down to purple and beige. Purple and beige will then compare the number of yaks that they have in their herd, and whoever has the most yaks win. In case of a tie on on the stupas, it goes down to the player with the most actual stupas on the board. So if they had a bunch of little ones and still beat somebody who had just a couple of big ones, they would eke that out. If that's still tied, then they would count their yaks and break the tie that way. So there's always a way to break the ties. Emissary count is broken on ties as well. I guess that's about all to the game. You're going to play, like I said, you're going to play till 12 rounds and determine a winner. Alright, so that's how the game is played. My thoughts on the game here are that this is a really good game for both seasoned gamers as well as kind of a gateway game. I've introduced this one to plenty of people who have never been into gaming, and they seem to pick up on it pretty easily. It's got a pretty narrow division of options. There's only the 4 paths that you can take and a pause action. A lot of people complain about the length of the game. They say it's too long for what it is. I honestly can't remember if the rules state that it's a 60-second limit on programming, but I've implemented that. I have a sand timer. It just allows the 12 rounds to go by a whole lot quicker if people are pressured into making their decisions. It doesn't seem to really bother anybody. It works well like that. Since 2004, over those years, I have played this game many times. As I said, it does look like it's going to be reprinted, and looks like in about January to June of 2014. So if it looked like something that you're interested in, look for it to come out. Pick yourself up a copy. If you have any thoughts or questions for me, go ahead and email me on BoardGameGeek@ThoiA, or you can email me directly at iamthoia@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. See you next time.